cast your mind back to 14 years, the 2005 general election. That was the last time the Liberal Democrats were really riding high. They had 62 MPs. It's been a rocky path since then, until recently when, by grabbing the European flag, they've seen their fortunes revived. Last night, the former Tory leadership contender Sam Gyimah was the latest defector. His new party gathered this morning for their annual conference in Bournemouth under their new leader, Jo Swinson. I've been talking to her this morning, and I asked her first how many seats she thought the Lib Dems could win at the next election.
We're going to fight at the next election for a Liberal Democrat majority government and for me to be the Prime Minister of this country. And I think that's what our country needs.
So that means going from 18 seats now to more than 350 seats. That has never been done in the history of British politics. And even people who are very pro your party and look at the numbers talk about winning 100 seats, but you're saying 3 times that.
There's no limit to my ambition for the Liberal Democrats because there is no limit to my ambition for our country. We're in such dangerous times. And we have an opportunity to change the course, but that does require the Liberal Democrats to make that leap, and that is what I am determined to build the movement that will do that.
Well, let's think about the millions upon millions of people who would have to vote Liberal Democrat for the first time in their lives to make this happen. If you become Prime Minister, or if you're influential on the next government, your policy is now absolutely clear. No more referendums, no more ifs, no more buts. You revoke, and that ends the entire Brexit debate, and we stay inside the EU, period.
The policy that we're debating at conference today is very clear. If the Liberal Democrats at the next election win a majority, if people put into government as a majority government the Stop Brexit Party, then stopping Brexit is exactly what people will get. Yes, we will revoke Article 50.
So if I'm one of the 17.5 million people who voted to leave the EU in good faith, told by the British political establishment that they would respect my vote, you simply cancel it out. You treat the entire Brexit episode like some elderly bullock that you're going to take into a field and shoot.
Everybody can see that we are stuck, that Brexit is in a mess, and there needs to be a way out of that. Now, as Liberal Democrats, we have argued that the specific Brexit deal should be put to the public in a people's vote, which would give clarity.
But you're coming off that now.
We've still argued. I've been arguing in Parliament this week for that outcome. But if we end up in a general election, then I think we need to be straightforward with people and give them an option for all of this Brexit chaos to stop. Because
I'm sorry, let me introduce. If I'm somebody who believes that there needs to be another decision in the country about this, and it needs to be a proper referendum, a yes or no, looking at the actual deal and what's going to happen, I'm a people's voter in that respect. You are saying, forget it. Whatever happens, you're not going to get another referendum. You, the 17.5 million people, are not going to get another chance to vote. We're going to do it after an election and simply cancel the whole thing.
If we have a people's vote, which I've been campaigning for, then we will have that debate. But if instead we find ourselves in an election, it would be bizarre to suggest that the main issue of that election will be anything other than Brexit.
You know that we have a very angry, very divided country at the moment. What does simply revoking in Parliament do to the country's mood? It puts us into a really dangerous position, doesn't it?
I think people want politicians to be straightforward with where they stand. And I recognise that not everybody agrees with the Liberal Democrats on this. But I think they recognise also that we are being straightforward about our position. It's what we genuinely think is right for the country, and people should have that chance to choose that outcome.
And presumably, therefore, if pro-Brexit parties win the election, you completely accept that we're going to leave the EU and that's it, and you don't try and campaign to come back in again or change your position again.
Look, as Liberal Democrats...
You've got to be a Democrat about this.
I won my seat in 2005 as a Liberal Democrat. You know, the Labour Party had won a majority. It didn't stop me voting against the Labour government and arguing against them when I thought they were getting things wrong. Of course, if you're involved in politics, you're there to stand up for what you believe in, for what the people who have voted for you believe in, and obviously that will continue.
Before we get to this process, to stop no deal, it's perfectly possible the Prime Minister will bring back a proposed deal into the House of Commons. Are you absolutely sure that all Liberal Democrats will vote against that?
Look, I'm very clear. I don't think there is a good Brexit deal. I think every Brexit, whether you have a blue rosette on it or a red rosette on it, is bad for our country, and I'm not going to support Brexit.
One of your MPs, very highly respected one, Norman Lamb, says there's a silent majority who want to move on from this debate and we should vote for a deal. So not all your MPs will be united on this, will they?
I mean, I've obviously been a colleague with Norman for many years, and I respect that he's got his views on this. And, you know, I think that's the difference with the Liberal Democrats. You know, we can have a degree of disagreement and still find ourselves valued colleagues, whereas you look at the Conservative Party and the Labour Party, where they purge anyone who disagrees with the party leadership.
Well, let's look at your party a little bit more seriously then. Your latest defector, your recruit coming into Sam Gyimah. Now, he is somebody who, as a Conservative MP, was very, very strongly pro-low tax and pro-austerity. And thinking about the Liberal Democrats' record in government with the Conservatives, a lot of people on the Labour Party will say, there you go, it's absolutely clear. This is a soft Tory party that Jo Swinson is leading.
I think what I'm leading is an exciting movement that our country desperately
soft Tory
needs.
Party.
We have people like Sam Gyimah in the Liberal Democrats coming to the Liberal Democrats, and we also have people like Chuka Umunna and Luciana Berger coming together in the same party, because this is where the rallying point is for liberal values in our country.
And because we all watched it on television, people like Philip Lee crossing the floor of the House of Commons, coming to sit beside you. Let me remind you what one of your former great supporters said about Philip Lee. This is Jenny Rigg, who was former chair of the Liberal Democrats' LGBT caucus. She described him as a homophobe, a xenophobe, and someone who thinks people should be barred from the country if they're ill. I thought, she says, that the Liberal Democrats were not a single-issue party. I thought we had a soul and principles. But apparently, so long as you're on the right side on the Brexit debate, we will take you. Well, I'm sorry, but no. What do you say to her?
Well, I did have a conversation with Jenny, and I explained I do not believe that that is an accurate representation of Philip's views.
But you're bringing in pro-austerity, pro-tax cutting, and in some respects, relatively illiberal people into your party to maximise your position.
I'm not going to accept that, because Philip is a supporter of equality, and as I say, I don't think that those remarks in any way reflect his viewpoint. Before anyone joins the Lib Dems, they have to sit down and go through a process with our chief whip to make sure that people do share our values, and that is right that we have that process. But what is important is that people are on a journey. People who share liberal values but have previously been in different parties are coming together because we have a moment of national crisis, and together we can build something that will genuinely put our country on a better path for the future. One
thing I think we can agree on is the next election is going to be a heavily Leave versus Remain kind of general election, rather different in atmosphere. And I know that over the summer you have been had lots and lots of intensive talks about which seats different parties might stand down in and so forth. Can you update us to where you've got to?
Look, the next election, it's true that in the vast majority of places, the strongest, biggest party of Remain is going to be the Liberal Democrats. But it won't universally be the case. And so, of course, we're in discussions with other parties who share that goal, like Plaid Cymru and the Green Party. I'm sure you'd want the scoop, but I'm not going to
let me ask you about a couple of very specifics. So Penrith and the border, Rory Stewart, a great pin-up for liberal-minded Tories at the moment. Would you stand down to ensure that he keeps his seat?
Look, I have a lot of respect for Rory. I think many people found his leadership campaign a breath of fresh air in the Conservative Party. But let's be clear, Rory wants to make Brexit happen. He backs a Brexit deal. And as Liberal Democrats, we're very clear we want to stop Brexit. So of course we will be standing in that seat to make sure that people have the chance to vote to stop Brexit.
What about Uxbridge, the Prime Minister's own seat there, where the Labour Party are by far the leading challengers? If you really want to cause problems for the Brexit side, you stand aside in Uxbridge, unless you're just playing party politics.
Look, I'm not going to go through every seat with you, but I will say...
Those are two big ones. No more. Just tell me about Uxbridge.
So again, Labour are a party that wants to make Brexit happen. Both Boris Johnson and Jeremy Corbyn want to deliver Brexit. It's a Brexit that will damage our country, whether it has a red rosette or a blue rosette. Liberal Democrats want to stop Brexit, and we are going to give people that choice at the election.
All right, well, let's talk about Jeremy Corbyn specifically, because there's been a lot of talk of a government of national unity, which you have scuppered by saying, I won't deal with Jeremy Corbyn under any circumstances. Do you regret that now?
Well, I just don't think that bears out with the facts.
That's what you said.
No, I said...
You said I won't serve under him.
That's very different to what you said at first. I've said Jeremy Corbyn does not and cannot command the confidence of a majority of MPs in this House of Commons. It is very clear that that is the case. That is a statement of basic arithmetic. What we do need to do is work together, and to be fair, we have been working together. That's how we passed the legislation. Not really particularly driven by Jeremy Corbyn, I may add,
all right, well,
but a group of cross-party MPs that have been working together all over the summer very successfully.
OK, well, you mentioned the word arithmetic just now. It is possible, let me put it to you, it is possible that you don't completely sweep the country, and the result of the next election is the Conservatives lose their majority, but Labour are the largest party, and you're the next largest party. In those circumstances, you have said you will never go into coalition with them. There'll be no rerun of the Rose Garden scenes with Nick Clegg and David Cameron. You will not do a coalition again.
Boris Johnson and Jeremy Corbyn are not fit to be Prime Minister. We see that day in, day out. I want to build an open, inclusive and fair society, and they do not. And that's why at this election, when it comes...
I understand that, but it may well be the case that you are in the position of supporting or not, from the outside, another party. I want to ask you specifically, if the Labour Party form the next government after the next election, do you back them, for instance, on privatisation? Does your thumb go up or down? Because it may be in your hands.
I mean, this is a hypothetical that is talking about a scenario beyond an election, an election in which the public have the chance to choose.
It'll be part of the election campaign, you believe me, it really will be.
I'm sure it will, but we are saying that there is another way forward, because it is not good enough for the people of this country to be told that they have to choose between Boris Johnson and Jeremy Corbyn. Millions of people look at that choice with horror, and it is not the choice they have to make.
People will be looking at Jo Swinson and asking themselves, if Jeremy Corbyn is Prime Minister, does Jo Swinson support him in ending the privatisation of the water industries and renationalising them, for instance? Yes or no?
I do not support Jeremy Corbyn. I do not think he is fit to be Prime Minister.
What about his taxation policies? Would they survive a Lib Dem revival?
Jeremy Corbyn is not going to be put into number 10 with Liberal Democrat votes, right? Because he is not fit for that position. And the country deserves better, and we can make sure that the country can have a better future. You're
a Scottish MP, obviously. The SNP is targeting your seat again, as you know. Now, this week we had the highest court in Scotland, in the Court of Session, judging the Prime Minister's decision on proroguing Parliament was illegal. That is now going to be judged again by the Supreme Court in London. If they rule with the Prime Minister, is that it as far as you're concerned? He's won that battle.
I'm going to be prepared to do everything that I can to defend our democracy, the way in which our parliamentary democracy and representation works, and to make sure that we do not crash out without a deal, because the whole charade that we have of shutting Parliament down for 5 weeks is because Boris Johnson wants to evade scrutiny and wants to force a no-deal Brexit on this country. We've got to stop a no-deal Brexit and stop Brexit altogether.
Jo Swinson, thanks very much indeed for coming up from Bournemouth and talking to us. Thanks a lot.